Welcome to Blind Abilities. I'm Jeff Thompson. Today we have the newest member of the Blind Abilities Teen Cast, Alec Olson, and he's going to give us a little run through of how to get started with NVDA. The Blind Abilities Teen Cast, that's TEENCAST, is geared towards high school students transitioning from high school to college to the workplace. Alec himself, a transition-age student, will be bringing you articles, interviews, and demonstrations of some of the latest and greatest stuff. So before we get started, here's a little clip from the NVDA developers NV Access. We hope you enjoy.
There are 285 million blind and vision impaired people in the world.
Our mission at NV Access is to make sure none of these people miss out on using a computer just because they can't afford an expensive screen reader.
A screen reader is software that allows blind and vision impaired people to use computers by reading the text on the screen in a synthetic voice. It can also be used with a braille display.
A screen reader enables blind people to get an education and to participate in the workforce.
It provides people with independence. Unfortunately, the cost of screen reading software puts computers out of reach for many people.
That's where our organisation, NV Access, comes in. We created a free screen reader called NVDA, which stands for Non-Visual Desktop Access.
I started NVDA back in April 2006. I didn't feel it was right that blind and vision impaired people had to pay thousands of dollars for a screen reader.
I first met Mick when I was 9 years old at a music camp for the blind. Fast forward 12 years, I'd just graduated from a Bachelor of Information Technology, and Mick tells me that he's working on a free open source screen reader, so I decided to get on board. Little did I know just how far this project would go.
Our screen reader has been translated into over 40 languages.
It's been downloaded over 60,000 times.
NVDA has been used in at least 120 countries.
We've got to this point thanks to corporate grants and individual donations.
But with ongoing funding, we could potentially reach millions more people with our free screen reader. And we could ensure that NVDA continues to be compatible with the world's rapidly changing technology. Please help us continue our work. Donate today or sponsor us at www.nvaccess.org.
Hello Blind Abilities, this is Alec Olson and I'm going to talk about the free open source NVDA screen reader. What's cool about NVDA is, like I said, it's free, and what open source means is that the source code of the program can be modified by anyone. That means that it can be added on, people can create scripts and add-ons for it, and you don't have to ever pay for them, so you can just use them, and everything is free about this thing. Anyone can expand on it, anyone can use it. That's just the great thing about free open source. So, you can download NVDA at www.nvda-project.org. That's nvda-project.org. And then there's a download button. If you press B, it's actually a button, and you click on download. And then it'll take you to a page where it'll ask you to make a donation. Obviously it's optional because it's a donation. They do appreciate donations because obviously it's a free project, and so they want to be supported. So it'll give you some radial buttons for one-time donations or monthly donations. At the bottom of all of those, you can click skip donation this time if you want to, or you can select an amount. And then it'll ask you for your email address, which is required, but you can check a box below that then says, I don't want to receive updates. Or you can check and receive NVDA updates. They don't spam you or anything with daily emails or anything. It's just whenever they release an update, they give you a change log and whatnot. Once you get through all that, then there's a download now button, and it downloads the file to your computer, and then once you run it, it will boot up a temporary copy of NVDA. It's a fully functioning copy of NVDA, so the installer is completely accessible from the moment you press enter. So you'll hear the NVDA project logo, the NV Access logo, I should say, and then NVDA will start up a temporary copy, and then it'll give you a couple of options. You'll be able to click install NVDA on this computer, which will then bring up kind of a pretty standard setup wizard where you can just click next, accept, agree, install. Or you can click create a portable copy of NVDA, which will search for a flash drive that's connected to your computer, and then you select that drive and install a portable copy of NVDA that you can take with you anywhere and plug into a computer, and it'll run an auto run script which will start NVDA, and you'll have accessibility anywhere, free accessibility anywhere. Or you can click continue running, which will run the copy of NVDA from the installer, which I guess is another way of making NVDA portable. So those are the three options that you have in the installer, but let's just assume you installed NVDA on the computer. So once you've installed it, it will bring up a welcome to the NVDA dialog, and it'll give you a couple really common options that users change. One of them, I believe, is use caps lock as an NVDA modifier key. Modifier key is like with any other screen reader, you just press it and hold it down to access the screen reader's options, like NVDA plus F12 to check the time, or NVDA plus 1 to access the help, the key describer mode, anything like that. That's what a modifier is. Use caps lock as an NVDA modifier key. Use numpad insert as an NVDA modifier key. Use extended insert as an NVDA modifier key, which is the 6-pack insert. And then the keyboard layout combo box, and it'll have desktop or laptop, and that basically is asking you, do you have a numpad on your computer? And what you use the numpad for is, if you have one, you'll use it for object navigation and stuff like that, which I'll talk about in a second. If you have one, then select desktop. If you don't have laptop, and it'll change your keyboard layout respectively. And then I think there's one more option. I think it might be start NVDA on the logon screen or something like that, but there's not many options in there. And then there's show this dialog every time the NVDA starts. So you can uncheck that if you want, and then you click OK, and you have NVDA running. The first thing you're going to probably want to do is go into the NVDA menu, which you can do by pressing NVDA N, and that brings up a whole massive array of options. There's a preferences menu, which has a whole overwhelming large list of stuff in there. There's the tools menu, which is kind of for more advanced users. You don't really go into the tools menu unless you kind of know what you're doing, or you want to install add-ons or mess around in the Python console or whatever. And then there's a help menu, which you're going to want to go to, because not only does it have the user guide, but it has access to the changelog, the license agreement, credits. There's also a shortcut to the welcome dialog, and there's an insanely useful feature called the commands quick reference, which will be incredibly useful probably even years after you start using the screen reader, because there's just so many commands for NVDA. Not all of them you need to know right away, but it's just nice to have that there, and you can look up stuff very easily. And then also in the NVDA menu, there's configuration profiles, which you can save various groups of settings for, I guess, if you have different users of your computer. Most people won't need that. And then revert to save configuration, reset to factory defaults, save configuration, donate, and exit. So that's your menu. And then, like I said earlier, you can press NVDA 1 also to access the input help, is what NVDA calls it. I know JAWS calls it key describer. The various ways of moving around in NVDA. The one you're going to be most used to, and the one you're going to use most often, is your system caret, which is the basic arrows, tab, shift, tab. The stuff that Windows just does naturally without all the time. Windows will always have your system caret, even if you're not running a screen reader, and NVDA reads that, just like any other screen reader would. And NVDA supports all of the lovely HTML keystrokes we know and love so much. B for button, H for heading, L for list, C for combo box, F for form control, 1 through 6 for heading levels 1 through 6, all those things that we know. T for table. NVDA has all of those, which will make your web browsing experience obviously very, very nice. So that's your system caret, which you're going to be very familiar with if you've used another screen reader. The other two methods of navigation are not going to be so familiar to you, unless you may have used the JAWS cursor. That's a little bit like flat review, which is another form of navigation in NVDA, which basically scans the screen in the way that sighted people would see it. Like, it goes from left to right top to bottom, and it's really confusing. Like, you don't want to use it very often unless you have inaccessible application which doesn't work any other way. Otherwise, it's just, you don't want to use that for just ordinary reading, because especially with controls that get in the way of your text, like there could be a whole panel of buttons off to the right of what you're reading, and since it goes left to right, top to bottom all the time, it would read that always. So the desktop shortcuts for accessing that are 7 and 9 to read previous and next lines. Obviously, you have to make sure you have numlock off because you're using the numpad for this. 4 and 6 go to the previous and next word. 1 and 3 go to the previous and next character. And then NVDA 7 and NVDA 1 toggle between screen review, object review, and document review, which screen review moves through the whole screen. Document review just moves through the... if you have a document open, it's not always going to show you document review, but when you have document review available to you and you see it, it's going to show up in a web page, for example, or in a Word document. That will show up and it'll just read the Word document. So I guess you could read pages like that, but you, like I said, you really don't want to. It's not good. So I guess basically what you would use flat review for is, like I said, inaccessible applications, and it does solve a lot of problems, because there are those applications that you press tab and shift tab and it does nothing, and it's very annoying for people, and that's when flat review will come in handy. It takes a lot of messing around and getting used to, but it can solve a lot of issues that come up with inaccessible applications, so that you don't just have to press tab and shift tab and nothing happens and then you give up. So the other method of navigation, which is more usable than flat review because it allows you to click on things, but it's still not usually the way you're going to navigate your computer, is object navigation. And if you're familiar with Apple devices, this is what a lot of what Apple does is object-based navigation and containing objects and all this stuff. And basically, you move left and right, scrolling left and right through a set of objects on the screen. Every item is an object. Every text box, every list, every button, every element is an object. If you want to go deeper into the object, like a list, and you want to see the items in a list, and you press a button, and it goes deeper into the object and goes into the next level of the object, and goes into like items of a list, or buttons in a toolbar, or text in a text box. That's basically what object navigation is. If you're using a touch screen with NVDA, which does work, like on the new Windows 10 computers, on the new Windows 10 laptops, you can use touch screens with NVDA. That's what NVDA does, is it uses object navigation for your touch screen use. Basically, object navigation, you press NVDA 4 and NVDA 6. If you're using desktop mode, you press NVDA 4 and NVDA 6 to move to previous and next object. NVDA 2 to interact with that object and go into the next level. NVDA 8 to back out of that object and go to the previous level containing level. And then NVDA Enter to activate the control that you're currently on, like a button or a link. Those are the three methods of navigation in NVDA. Like I said, you're probably going to use the system caret the most because it's the simplest and it works the best, and that's what we all are used to. But those are going to come in handy when you find applications where you can't tab and shift tab through them, and you press tab and shift tab and it does nothing. So as for resources, like I said, there's the help, which is very useful if you want to read the user guide. There's the commands quick reference, which is going to serve you very useful for years and years. If you want to mess around a little bit more or just add some more functionality to your NVDA experience, add-ons are a great thing, and there's a couple places you can go for those. You can go to the official add-ons page, which is addons.nvda-project.org, or you can go into the tools menu and click manage add-ons, and then it'll open up a dialog, and you can tab to get add-ons ... button, and click on that and it'll just open the add-ons page. And there's some really great stuff there that you can use. There's OCR add-ons and Dropbox accessibility stuff, and there's just all kinds of stuff that people have written. And there's another add-ons page. There's an unofficial add-ons page that a lot of people use. It's just written by a friend of mine. It's become a very popular stop for people that are looking for NVDA add-ons. The website is jeff.tdrealms.com. He has a lot of stuff, so just scroll down to almost the bottom of the page pretty much and click on NVDA add-ons page, and there's another fun collection of add-ons there, and it's pretty different from the official add-ons page. I think there are a couple duplicates, but they're mostly different collections, and you can outfit your NVDA with all kinds of nice stuff with those add-on pages. And a couple more examples, like if you're using Windows 10, there's a Windows 10 App Essentials thing that'll make a couple of your Windows 10 apps a little bit more accessible. Like I said, OCR apps, Eloquence, there's a really, really, really nice NVDA remote access add-on that is very useful for remote support or remote access, unattended remote access for yourself while you're away from your desktop PC. It's just like, that's why I love NVDA, is because it's so expandable and you can do anything with it if you want to. So that includes my talk/demonstration of NVDA. If you want to download it, I really, really recommend it. This is a screen reader that I've been using for 4 or 5 years. I stopped using JAWS because it just got too commercial and too bulky, and I just don't like it anymore. And I prefer open source software because it's just not so clunky and it doesn't take up so much space. So I really hope that this podcast changes some people's minds about it, because, you know, why spend money on a screen reader when you can get something just as worth it for free? I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope a few more people decide to download NVDA after listening to this. Thank you.
So if you're using a PC computer and you want to give NVDA a try, download it for free from the NV Access website at www.nvda-project.org. A big thank you to Alec Olson for his review/demo of NVDA, the non-visual desktop access screen reader. I also want to thank all of you for all your wonderful feedback, and most of all, thanks for listening. And until next time, bye-bye.
When we share
what we see
through each other's eyes, we can then begin to bridge the gap between
the limited expectations and the realities
of blind abilities.
The realities of blind
abilities.
For more podcasts with a blindness perspective, check us out on the web at www.blindabilities.com, on Twitter at blindabilities. Download our app from the App Store, blindabilities, that's 2 words, or send us an email at info@blindabilities.com. Thanks for listening.